it's Stephanie with the Rancher's Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to make one of our favorite meals today, or you can just do it as a side dish. I'm actually going to make it into a meal for lunch today, but this is a creamy, gluten-free mac and cheese. If I were to make it as just a side dish to go with dinner, I would do all of these same steps. Then I would dump it into a casserole dish, sprinkle more cheese on top, and bake it for like 20 minutes-ish till the cheese is melty and kind of bubbly, and serve it as a side. Today, I'm gonna make it into lunch. So I'm gonna do all the steps for making my creamy mac and cheese, and then I have had a full chicken here in the oven going since about, I think, 8 o'clock this morning. I just have it really low. It's at 250 degrees. I can link in the description what I follow when I do my roast chicken like this. This is much like a rotisserie chicken from the store. It just literally falls off the bone. I needed the carcass to make up some more bone broth, and my family doesn't just love a roasted chicken as like a main meal. So what I've been doing is cooking it in the mornings and then shredding up the chicken or pulling all of the meat off of the bones so I can make my broth with the bones, but then I take the protein, the chicken, and I throw it into other meals. So you can make enchiladas with it, you can do it for chicken tacos, you can throw it into some mac and cheese for a complete meal. So there's so many ways you can use already pre-cooked chicken. So that's what I did today. I put the roast chicken in early this morning, and I'm gonna use that meat. But the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the gluten-free noodles, because there is some tricks to the noodles when you're making this dish gluten-free. Now, if you don't need to eat gluten-free, you can just go buy your favorite brand of Elbow pasta, or really any pasta that you want. We like to use Elbow for the mac and cheese, but you can use whatever you want. If you're making this gluten-free, the brand of noodles really does matter. There are just some not very good gluten-free noodles out there. Your noodles will get really mushy, kind of fall apart, not keep their shape, all of that, and nobody wants that. So the two brands that I recommend is the Barilla brand or this Jovial Foods brand. I get my Jovial Food pasta on Azure Standard, and I buy them in bulk, so I'll get like 12 of these boxes at a time, and this is just Elbow. I'll get all of their cuts. I get their spaghetti, bow tie, shell, penne, any cut they have, I'll get them, and I'll get them in bulk, and I usually only buy them every 6 months or so. So I'm going to use Elbow pasta of the Jovial Foods this time, but there are some tips to your gluten-free noodles to get them to not fall apart on you. Tip number 1 is don't overcook your pasta. So it doesn't typically take gluten-free pasta to cook as long as regular pasta, probably because it doesn't have the wheat in it that it's breaking down to make it soft. But for whatever reason, they just don't take as long, and you need to be kind of on it to make sure that as soon as your pasta is al dente or done, then you're gonna pull it off. You're gonna drain it, and I even rinse it with some cold water to stop that cooking process right away, because you don't want it, that's where the mushiness comes in. If you let them go too long or sit in that water, even if you turn it off and let it sit in the water, it really gets them, they lose their shape, they start to get mushy. So in order to keep it all good, you want to stop them as soon as they're done and stop that cooking process so that they hold their shape. Okay. Now, my tip number 2 would be to not pour your noodles in until your water is boiling. So get your water coming up to a full boil, then pour your pasta in. And tip number 3, which is really important with gluten-free, is to stir your noodles every 30 seconds for the first couple of minutes. And the reason for that is gluten-free noodles will stick together, and then you can't get them apart. So specifically with spaghetti noodles the most, but with all noodles. So as soon as you dump them in, give them a stir, and then about every 30 seconds, keep stirring it. Let it sit for a few seconds, stir it again. This will get them to start that cooking process and not stick together, and then you should be good. You don't have to stir them as frequently, but the first few minutes are really crucial to keep stirring them frequently so they don't stick together. Okay, so that's all of your information to get a good gluten-free pasta, and that's obviously a main ingredient in this this dish. So you want to make sure that your pasta is good and ready to go. We're going to go ahead and make up the cheese sauce for our creamy gluten-free mac and cheese. I'm gonna wait a few minutes to start my pasta and just get the cheese sauce made up because that usually takes a little bit of the longest. The pasta will too. If I was in a hurry, I would do them both at the same time. I'd start my pasta, get it going, and then start my cheese at the exact same time. Typically by the time my cheese is done, my pasta is done, we can add them together. I'm gonna go ahead and start my sauce first. So we are gonna do 2 tablespoons of butter. And I'll go ahead and turn my stove onto medium here. Here's my secret ingredients. 2 tablespoons of cream cheese. This is what's gonna give you that creamy mac and cheese. If I'm being really honest right now, I don't even measure this. I just kind of put in what looks like 2 tablespoons. This is how I cook most of the time, but for the nature of the blog and for you guys, I try and measure what I can. So that looks about 2 tablespoons. So we're gonna leave it at that. That's the secret ingredients. That's what's gonna make it nice and creamy. Okay, I misspoke on the butter. You need actually 3 tablespoons of butter, so I'm gonna throw another one in there. We're gonna whisk that all together and let it all melt completely. Your cream cheese will break down and melt with your butter. And then we're gonna go ahead and add in 3 tablespoons of a gluten-free all-purpose flour. If you wanna save on cost and not use your all-purpose flour, you can go ahead and use cornstarch in that. Or if you're not gluten-free at all, you can use regular all-purpose flour. Okay, my butter and my cream cheese has melted down. The cream cheese isn't completely smooth, but it will get smoother as it goes. It's not big chunks of cream cheese anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 3 tablespoons of my flour. Again, you can use cornstarch here if you don't have any all-purpose flour. Or if you're making this for a gluten-free family and you're not necessarily a gluten-free family, then cornstarch is perfect because if you always have cornstarch on your shelf, you can essentially use that to thicken anything and it's safe for them to eat. Okay, now you're gonna whisk that together and you're gonna let it come to a paste or a ruche. And then I am going to add in 1.5 cups of milk. You could even do a cup of milk and 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Ooh, that would be nice and creamy. And I'm going to whisk that together to make it nice and thick. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now I'm going to just whisk this all together until it becomes nice and smooth and thick. Now, it's important to note too that you don't want your stove to be up too high. I have an electric stove here and I have it set to about 4. Yes, if you turned it up higher, it's gonna thicken really fast, but you really kind of want your cheese sauce to come low and slow. Otherwise, it gets a little gritty with the flour and stuff. So if you do it low and slow, then it really just becomes thick and faster and it becomes this really creamy, smooth sauce. So keeping it at a lower temperature is actually better when you're trying to make some form of a cheese sauce. It's looking so good. Put it right back there. And I went ahead and started my water here as it comes up to a boil. This sauce will cover about 12 ounces of pasta, maybe a little bit more. I'm feeding 6 people. I feed my family of 5 and then our hired guy eats lunch with us. So I'm probably going to let the sauce stretch a little bit more. If it's super thick, I might add just a little bit of more milk to make it stretch a little bit farther. And I will probably do 1.5 boxes of this pasta. That way there is plenty to go around. I'm going to take my chicken out of this pot, but I'm going to save the broth that is in that pot because that chicken for the last few hours has made a delicious, good chicken broth. And we'll use it in something else. So just always think about other things you can be using with ingredients. Don't throw stuff away. Like I said, we're going to use this meat today for lunch. We're also going to use that meat tonight for dinner because I'm making a chicken tortilla soup, and then I'll take the carcass and make a bunch of broth out of it. The broth that was made while I was cooking the chicken I'm going to keep, and I'll just put it right in the fridge and I'll use that for something. Think about ways that you can stretch your grocery bill, and this is all ways that you can do that. So, okay, this is almost thick enough. I have measured out here a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese and about 2 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. So I just buy white cheddar cheese, raw white cheddar cheese from as your standard. So you can use any kind of cheese you really want. Obviously, the sharper the cheddar cheese, the more powerful of a flavor your cheese sauce is going to be. But I always use white. So my sauce, it's not going to be a traditional orange cheese sauce. It's going to be more white because I'm using a white cheese. It all tastes delicious, so it really doesn't matter which. Just because it's not orange doesn't mean it's not a good mac and cheese. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and add in my Parmesan cheese. Whisk that around. This will actually help it to thicken even more. And then I'm going to put in my 2 cups of shredded cheese, which is about what I have in here. This was from yesterday's lunch, so I'm not even going to measure it. I'm just going to throw it in. As I say, I never measure anything. It looks about right. If I felt like it needed a little more cheese, I just add some more cheese. Okay, now I'm going to whisk this all around and let the cheese completely melt. When it's just about melted, I'll actually turn my stove off. Let it sit on the burner where it's still warm, and it'll finish melting the rest of the way. That's also a way of helping your sauce not be grainy with the flour and stuff. So once this is done, we're gonna go ahead and get our noodles cooked, start shredding our chicken, and we will be ready to throw it all together into a delicious dish. I've got all of my chicken shredded up, my bones off to the side because I'm going to make those into broth. My noodles are just about done here, so I'm going to give them another minute to cook. They're very, very close. My cheese is nice and smooth, and you always want to do just a quick taste test. Perfect, delicious. Just make sure you don't need to add any salt or anything like that. That is perfect. And now I'm going to go ahead and drain my pasta. And immediately run it under some cool water, like I said, to stop that cooking process. When you're mixing everything up, you don't want it to fall apart on you. Okay. Now I'm going to pour it back into my pot so I can mix everything. And I'm going to take my cheese here and pour it right over my pasta. Now I'm going to give it a nice stir, kind of being gentle with it. I mean, again, you don't want your pasta to get mushy and fall apart. And now at this point, you have creamy mac and cheese that's gluten-free. You used regular pasta and regular flour, then it's regular, but you have a creamy mac and cheese, and you can stop at this point. And stir that all around. Now I have my protein, I have my carb, I have all of my good stuff in here. I just have a buttered baking dish right here. And I'm gonna pour this all right into it. And now I'm going to sprinkle on, or shred as I go, some extra shredded cheese just right on top. Like I said, this is just an added extra. This is because I want to make this a complete meal. And so I'm adding my protein and kind of making it into more of a dish than a side dish. Okay. My oven, I never did turn it off, so I just bumped it up to 300, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in. You don't wanna bake it too long or your top will start to get kind of crispy. You just want the cheese to melt and make it nice and gooey. Since everything's already cooked, it doesn't take very long. Pop that in for about 10 minutes. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna cut up some berries that you see over there, make a little platter of some fruit and berries to have with that for lunch. And we're gonna have a delicious lunch here in about 20 minutes or so. So I hope that this video was helpful, that you can see how easy it is to make a creamy gluten-free mac and cheese. You can make it regular, you can make it as a side dish, you can make it as a standalone dish, you can do all different things with it. It's one of our favorites. Whenever I say I'm making mac and cheese, everyone gets really, really excited. Toss those boxed mac and cheese from the store because this is so much better in taste, in healthy foods. And just all of the above, and it's simple to do. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. I send out one new video every single week. Jump on over to the blog, the link is in the description, and join our email community over there. I send out one email a week over there with different recipes, always my printable recipes, ranch life, canning tips, canning recipes, all of those things. I hope that this video was helpful, and I will see you next time. Take care.